Hey guys, Tommy, Modern Canine Solutions. We're in the studio today with trainer Emily, and we're just going to talk some dogs and behavioral stuff, and we'll just kind of see where this goes. So Emily is our head trainer besides me. Who are you? Where'd you come from? Obviously your mom and dad, but like, you know, like obviously you guys live in Troy, but is that where you grew up? Like, how'd you get into the dog world?
I don't live in Troy.
I thought you lived in Troy.
No, I live in O'Fallon.
Oh, O'Fallon, whatever. It's close enough, right? Same person, basic area.
No, I grew up in O'Fallon, northern O'Fallon. I'm the youngest of three. I have two older sisters. I was homeschooled. And I kind of just ended up here. So my PE class, whenever I was homeschooled, I actually created my own dog walking business throughout my parents' neighborhood, and it was called Wagging Tails on the Trails. I had like pamphlets and everything.
So young entrepreneur.
I was, and I would literally just go door to door, and I would confiscate all of my neighbors' dogs and take them on walks every day. And me being me, I used to go to the library every day and get every single dog training book and breed book that there was, read them all. And whenever I stole everyone's dogs, I was training them. And then at the end of the summer, I would put on this humongous dog show with all of my neighbors' dogs. I just had all of them like tied up to my dad's fence in a line. And my grandparents would come over, my like whole neighbors would be there, and we just have this giant dog show with this crazy girl in the neighborhood doing
right.
it.
So dogs have been life.
Dogs have been life. I got older, got into horses, did a lot of horse training, horse barn management, operations manager, started my own equine lesson program. I did a lot of showing myself. I ended up going to vet tech school, did the vet tech life for about 7 years, and then I had a kid, and I just wasn't able to keep up with it, and somehow I ended up here.
From a phone call.
Right.
So you've been training now with us for almost 6 months? Since May. So 3 months, 4 months. What's the big difference from the vet tech world to training side of things? Obviously, like vet tech, you're dealing with all kinds of animals. Mm-hmm. We specialize in dogs. So, but overall, like, what's the experience, the shift and the change and everything?
I'd say the biggest thing is you're paying attention and catering the needs for the actual pet instead of the owner.
Right.
It's like working in a clinic, you know, your job, like my job is, okay, this dog needs these vaccines. I need to get a blood sample for a heartworm test. This dog will eat you. So we have to get it on drugs. We have to sedate it. We have to have 6 people hold it down.
Just to administer something.
Just to get the job done, because they legally have to have rabies, or we legally have to do the tests to get them on prevention. Versus
doing the training prior so that you can do it.
Correct. Yes. So yes, we're doing what we have to do for the health of the dog, but we're not doing what is best for the dog necessarily.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge transition, especially with a couple of dogs that I've worked with in training now. I've seen like what I would like, oh yeah, I need to do this, that way I can get its nails clipped. Versus I'm like, okay, I've seen Tommy do it this way and it was so much better for the dog.
Right.
And it's just a big difference to actually learn what to do is what is best for the dog versus just doing what you need to do to get the job done.
Right. So coming from, because obviously you're a dog owner as well. You have a new shepherd puppy and you have Colt, your adult dog, and your ancient beagle. Yeah, it's some
Don't knock on Sugar Pete.
Some disdain in beagles. I'm not a fan. Nothing wrong with them, just not my type of dog. So one of the big things that we see on the dog training side of things when we start talking to owners and doing sales and things like that is, oh, I went to my vet and they told me to put my dog on trazodone because he has anxiety. Mm-hmm. Right? So, which, don't get me wrong, there are dogs out there that some dogs need something sometimes to take the edge off. But I feel like there's a trend and it follows humans, right? So if you look at the American population, we're over-medicated, mm-hmm. we're fat, we're nasty, right? So you look at dogs nowadays, they're over-medicated, they're fat, they're nasty. what are your thoughts on veterinarians stepping outside their role as vets and giving training advice on dogs that are behavioral cases and your experience?
So I will say, from my experience, in cases of that, it is always recommended to seek training.
Yeah.
And a lot of clinics have like contact information, you know, some trainers that they work with to like refer people to.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that's recommended. I don't think that it's pushed hard enough though.
Yeah.
And because we, you know, like as veterinarians, we would just hand them the medication.
Right.
It's a Band-Aid of the problem.
For sure.
And medication is cheaper than training.
Sometimes it can add up.
It depends.
Over time.
It depends, yeah.
Over time it adds up, and then also,
I mean, a month of trazodone's like $30.
Right, but if we're talking about a 2-year-old dog, it's going to live another 10 years.
Yeah, in the long run. Yeah.
Right, and then on top of that, the potential of other side effects and the potential of outbursts, because, you know, when you put a dog on trazodone as an example, they zombie out when they first get on it.
Yep. And
then as it wears off, a lot of times they become more aggressive because they don't feel good.
Exactly.
And then now there's a chance for a lash out and potentially a lawsuit if the dog bites somebody. So long term, I think that costs more money. It puts more money in the vet's pocket, right? Which, in my experience with the vets that I've worked with, most of our vets that I've worked with are we don't want to put your dog on meds, but if we have to, we will. But you need to do these things first. But also in my experience with dealing with clients and dealing with their vets, there's a lot of vets out there that are just like, oh, your dog has anxiety? Here's trazodone. Oh, he doesn't do well on trazodone? Here's trazodone and gabapentin or whatever. And then now we have this dog that walks around a zombie all day long, and just, you don't have a dog anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that the long-term side effects, like you just explained, that is not explained to dog owners from their vet.
Well, I don't think most dog owners are receptive of what the potentials are. They just want an instant fix.
Yeah, and they just don't. Dog owners tend to not look in the future,
right? For
like at the whole picture.
Hell, most humans don't.
They just they just want the what can I do in this very moment.
Right. It's not going to break my bank right now.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite thing with training dogs so far?
Go home lessons.
Go home lessons? Really?
Mm-hmm. I know. I just shocked you.
Yeah. They're draining. So I am naturally an introvert. I am not an extrovert. People drain me. So when I do lessons over and over and over again, like especially back to back, like I just get exhausted. Why do you like the go homes?
I love watching the reconnection.
Yeah, the light bulbs go off and everything.
Yes, I love just being able to sit down with the owners without the dog and just like going over the whole spiel of everything and explaining like the training that we did, talking with them about their lifestyle with their pet, and like talking with them to come up with a game plan to connect the two. And I love watching their light bulbs go off and like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
Right.
And then my absolute favorite part is watching the pet and the owners reconnect.
Yeah.
And then
that initial like burst of 10 minutes of chaos, because
the chaos craziness of love. I love that.
Yeah.
And whenever I get, I take the dog back and I do the demo with the dog, I love just watching their reaction. Like, holy shit.
Yeah,
that's
for
my
sure.
dog.
Right.
Are you sure that's my dog?
Right.
And
have you gotten, that's not my dog, you cloned my dog, where's my dog? Have you had that yet?
I've asked if I drugged the dog.
Yeah.
I have gotten that. And then I love being able to just hand a pet over, and they're like, I don't know I can do that. I don't know. I was like, no, get up. Here's the leash.
Right.
Let's do it. And then watching their face whenever they do it, and the dog does it exactly the same for them as it does for me.
Right.
And they're just astonished, like, holy crap.
Right. For sure.
I love it.
Yeah, that is. So for me, because obviously like I haven't been that instrumental in like go homes recently because the sales process and all that kind of stuff, I do have to say from before we started hiring on trainers, like my favorite part was the initial consultation, right? Because we're building the rapport, building the connection with the owner, going through the process with the dog, building that connection with the dog, and then the go home lesson kind of culminates the whole thing, where that whole relationship you've been building to that go home lesson and everything works out is awesome. So I can see where that can be, you know, a good highlight for you. Especially because you're a bubbly person and you like people, and, you know,
people exhaust me, but I like people in the moment. And then whenever it's over, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Right. For sure. What kind of training do you like so far?
The crazy psychotic ones.
Yeah.
I like the challenge, and it's the most rewarding because
you see the most progress.
You see the biggest change in those types of dogs.
Yeah.
Versus like, you know, like your old lady's little Shih Tzu, like Bandit we have right now.
Right.
Like you just like, okay, push on your butt for 2 times and you know how to sit. Okay, good to go.
Yeah.
And then you have dogs like Viper.
Yeah.
Like Viper was a huge challenge, but it was a great challenge because you learned so much from those types of dogs.
And I think that's the epitome of dog training is, if you stay inside your comfort zone, you're never going to learn, right? And I feel like it's a downfall for a lot of trainers is that, one, they never go past what they're good at.
Exactly.
You know? But then when they do, they don't have the knowledge or the experience to do it, and then they don't have a mentor or someone to fall back on to guide them, right? So a lot of the problems that I've seen over the years with like one-off trainers, for instance, right? You know, the Joe Bo that lives in Wentzville and has dog training and he trains out of his basement or whatever. And, you know, it's just him. But because it's just him, everybody is his enemy, right? And everybody is going to, you know, trying to get his dogs from him and his clients from him. So he doesn't ever reach out for help. And then he gets this call because he's got good reviews for a bunch of happy-go-lucky labs. And somebody says, hey, can you train an aggressive dog? He's like, yeah, I can do an aggressive dog. And then he gets this man-eating shepherd and he's like, fuck, right? Because he has no idea what to do because he's never done it before. But because he's ostracized himself from everybody, he can't reach out to anybody to get help. And then he's stuck. And then that person just spent all that money on that training, didn't get anything. They go find another one of those guys because, oh, well, the dog stays in their house, so it's got to be good, right? Same thing, no results. And then finally, some down the road, they find us, right? And then we actually get the results because we have the experience. So, what has been your favorite dog to train so far?
That's a tough one. I don't know if I can pick a favorite one. Can I have a top 5?
Sure.
Okay.
Or what's your favorite story of a dog?
I would say, I don't know about, this is hard. I like them all.
What was your hardest dog?
I would say either Viper or Eleanor.
Why?
Because Viper was insane. And Eleanor didn't give a shit.
About anything.
Yeah. She was just dull and dead inside.
Right. How'd you break through?
I can be just as stubborn as she can. I out-stubborn the dog.
Right. I can wait you out.
Yeah.
Why was Viper so hard? Besides just obviously the blatant crazy statement.
He was the most reactive dog that I had.
Yeah.
I mean, Yellowstone was whenever I first got here, but he was like, he had already been here for a long time.
Right.
He just hadn't had someone like work with him consistently.
Right. To keep it current.
Yeah. So that was really easy. But Viper was from like day one. And he's a lot of dog. He's a lot of dog.
He's a strong shepherd.
He is.
Yeah.
And because he was a family member's dog, it was a lot more pressure. I felt a lot more pressure on myself
get it right.
to make sure I got it right. Not like I feel that way with everyone, but because I knew I would be seeing that dog a lot more after the training.
Right. Or they call you up, Emily, you said you could train our dog, and
they have. They're like, how do I get him to stop biting the leash?
Yep.
But yeah, he's just a lot of dog, and he was the first dog that reacted to himself in the mirror. And I remember I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, you said that only reactive dogs react in the mirror, and he reacted in the mirror. So what do I do, Tommy?
It's a good first judgment. Well, now, so we got the stuffed dog.
Yes.
Do
we have a name for him yet?
No, I never named him. Someone said Cole, and I was like, that's
too
kind
close to Colt.
Oh, well, yeah. But it's funny because, so I've always used the mirror test because I was like, screw it, I'm not buying a stuffed animal to stick out in the middle of the floor to see if dogs react. It's stupid. So I've always done the mirror test and, walk past a mirror with the dog. And if the dog's aggressive or reactive, they're 9 out of 10 times going to react to themselves in the mirror because they don't understand who they are and all that kind of stuff. So they're not going to see themselves. They're going to see another aggressive dog. So it works. Since getting that stupid stuffed dog like 2 weeks ago, I've seen more dogs go after that thing than ever with the mirror.
Really?
Yeah. Like, and it's weird because you guys keep moving it, or maybe it's Savannah that keeps moving it.
All the above.
Yeah. And the dogs think it's alive because every time they come out, it's at a different place. And so like yesterday we had Bruno come in. He didn't even notice it at first. It was completely fine. And then he saw it, and that dog, 112-pound King Shepherd, right? Just monster dog. And he locked on, and Mom was like trying to pull him back. I was like, no, let him go. It's a stuffed animal. He's not going to hurt it. And I was like, this might be a good learning point for him. And he walked up, smelled it, and then was like, And then he barked at it a couple times, muzzle punched it, and was like, oh, you're not reacting. Okay. Then he walked back. Mom goes, I'm surprised he didn't rip its head off. Like, well, one, it's a stuffed animal. It's not real. But two, he does learn that not every dog's a threat. Right? So, no, that was definitely a well-invested little stuffed animal, and it gives Savannah something to do when I don't want to pay attention to her. She just needs to stop trying to ride it like a horse.
She does.
So, so what's been the hardest thing adjusting from the vet tech world to the training side? Because obviously, like, so as a vet tech, like, you have tons of animal knowledge. And even before that, like, you were a horse person. Horse training translates very, very easily to dog training.
It does, yeah.
Besides working with a prey animal, you're working with a predator, but the pressure on, pressure off, like, a lot of the same kind of key things are the same thing. The only big difference is you don't have 1,000-pound animal that potentially can crush you.
Yeah.
So the knowledge side of things, you already had a lot of that. Learning the practical side of things is a big change, I would imagine. And then just getting away from book knowledge to practical knowledge and understanding that, I guess, like in any industry, right? If you go to college and you can learn the book, when you go to the workforce, it's completely different.
Oh, going to vet tech school was pointless.
Right.
That was a complete waste of money because it wasn't as big whenever I did go to school, because I went to Hickey, which was the biggest tech school around.
Yeah.
They shut down. And ever since then, you don't have to go to school to be tech. I mean, you did it back then, but more often than not, if a clinic was interviewing and you had a degree versus not, they were going to hire a person with a degree.
Right.
Nowadays, they don't really care.
Yeah, it's like Animal Talk. You don't have to have one because they'll put you through it themselves. They basically teach you how to do it.
Yeah, they do. You can do on-the-job training.
Yeah.
Had I known that, I would not have spent all the money to go to school. Though I did get a dog out of it. I don't have the dog anymore, but unfortunately.
Well, and then we saved you from doing that.
Yeah.
Going to a dog training school.
See, that I learned the first time.
Kind of, because you were dead set on the beginning of that phone call. You're like, hey, I just want to do some stuff before I go to dog school.
Well, I didn't know that was a thing. And you're like, right. I do private internships. I was like, that's a thing.
It's actually way better. I mean, so you've seen the one trainer that we had that went to dog school. He spent
a week.
Right. He spent 6 months in dog school. At that point, I think you were with us for maybe a month and a half, 2 months. Probably, when he actually fully came on.
Yeah.
And you were better with a leash and understanding of things than he was after 6 months of school. In my mind. Like, you walk dogs around him like crazy. All of you guys do. Right? And the other side of it was, you didn't have the gazillion questions that, I mean, you did at the very beginning, right? In the first week or two, maybe even up to the first month. But he just made things so much worse with the way he would try to rabbit hole stuff, right?
He overthought everything, right, because he was trying to put each dog into a textbook.
Right. It's a great way to explain that. So, and the sad thing is, like, I don't remember how much that school is. The one that he went to, I want to say it was probably 20 grand for 6 months or something like that.
That's how much Petropolis was going to be.
Yeah.
It was 20 grand. That was for the extended program to do like the service dog training too.
Right.
Which I've been a dog trainer for 3 months and I've already trained a service dog.
Right. So, and that's, you know, and what people don't realize is book knowledge is great. Having a certificate that says, you know, you're a dog trainer, great. I have a ton of them. But none of that matters when you have a dog on the end of the leash.
No.
Because the dog's not going to respond textbook.
No.
You know, and I feel like that's the big thing. You know, I go on tangents all the time about purely positive and force free because, one, you can't change behaviors with force free and purely positive. It doesn't work. You can teach and train with it, but it doesn't change behaviors or stop behaviors. So I feel like a lot of those people that follow that course of training, they read the book and they get stuck on the book, and then they get those happy-go-lucky dogs, and it works because let's be real, most pet owners can train their dogs to sit down, come, and heel in place if they have food motivation, right? As long as there's no behavioral stuff involved, which is all they're doing. They're not changing behaviors. They're not training aggressive dogs. They're not stopping dog aggression. They're not stopping human aggression. They're teaching sit down, come, heel, place. 90% of the population can do that if you have a food motivated dog. So I don't know. I feel like that's a big thing too, is that when you try to fit a dog into a book script or a book chapter, you're going to miss it every time.
Yeah, exactly. So, every dog is different.
Right. Just like we're all different. And then that's not even just the dog. Now we have to bring in the family.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, that's like, now that there's a couple of trainers at the shop, every dog, each individual dog reacts differently between me and the other girls.
Right.
And then Danielle, like the other girls, will be like, I can't get him to do this, or he's doing this with me and he's biting me. And then me or Danielle will go get him, and they're like, I don't understand. What's the problem?
Now you know how I felt every time I took the leash from you.
Yeah.
Right. And you always got mad at me. So, but that's practical application. I feel like is way more, especially in the dog world. Like, I would rather take a trainer that's got 10 years of dog training with success without a certificate than some green dog trainer that just spent 6 months in a dog school that never has interacted with clients, hasn't interacted with training dogs. They've only trained their dogs to the program. And then now when they come out in the real world, they're literally starting at ground zero because they have no experience.
Yeah.
And when you go through a dog school, they recommend high drive lab, Malinois, high drive shepherd, you know, something along those lines. And let's be real, that's easy to train.
Yeah, because they're all going to be food driven.
Right. So when you have a dog that has drive, that's really easy to manipulate the dog. Now, when you get a dog that's 50 pounds overweight and doesn't care about food, doesn't care about you, wants to be couch potato, how do you train that dog if it's not food motivated?
Got to break its shell.
Well, you got to break the shell, but you can't. If that's all you know is how to lure a dog with food,
that's true. Yeah.
You're screwed, right? So that's why, like, the more tools in your toolbox, which I hate that expression, but the more ways you can do things. What's that?
Got to whip them out.
Right. You can use them, which is why, like, I didn't just stop at dog school. You know, I spent a year and a half at dog school, and then I went and learned from mentors, and I apprenticed underneath people. I went to workshops and seminars. I mean, I got a binder, a Love Me binder, about that thick full of certificates from schools and seminars that I've gone to, which has given me tons of tools. But even some of that stuff I don't even use anymore. Like, a lot of stuff I learned in dog school, because the way they were so adverse, I don't use any of it.
Yeah. Whenever, like, getting out of tech school, I went straight into emergency practice. And I worked overnights at AC here in O'Fallon. And, like, immediately, I would say probably, like, 90% of what I learned in school
went out the window. Right.
It's not practical. It's not how clinics actually run.
Right. Or the holding of a dog in a bear hug. Right, when the dog's in your face.
Yeah.
I've seen so many vet techs get bit for that.
Yeah.
I was like, so I remember the first time I used to live in Fenton, and there's an animal hospital out there that I used to go to. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. And I brought Raider in, and it was like his first visit, and I think he was at this time, like a year and a half old. So, and you know, Raider, super social, loves people, but he is a protection dog and he will let you know.
Yeah.
Right. So we bring him in and they're like, okay, well, we're going to take his temperature. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll hold him. They're, no, we're going to hold him. I go, okay. And they had him up. I put him up on the table. And sure enough, the vet tech comes over, wraps her arm around the dog's head. His head's right here. And I'm just like, nope, stop. I was like, you're going to get bit. And you're going to get bit right in the face. And then you're going to sue me. So no, we're not going to do this. And so sure enough, I started holding them. And ever since then, like, I've never let vet tech hold my dogs.
Yeah. From a tech perspective, I would say like 9.7 out of 10 times when someone says, oh, yeah, I'll hold my dog. You don't want to trust that person with holding your dog because that's how you get bit.
Right.
And I feel like now that I am a trainer, especially in a facility that we train protection dogs and like working dogs, I feel like it needs to be a thing where, like you said you did with Raider, like you voice your opinion and advocate for your dog. Like, hey, he's a working dog. I know what I'm doing with my dog. I'm not, now that I'm a trainer, oh, hell no, especially with my puppy that we're starting out, hell no, that dog is not leaving my sight.
Now, with that being said, like, I think that a lot of owners, they miss the mark because they don't do the pre-work to go to the vet.
Yeah.
You know, like when I get a puppy, I go to the vet. Even between vaccinations, everything like that, 100%, because I want my dog to think the vet is a positive place. I still muzzle train my dogs, and if there's like if he has to go through a procedure or they're gonna have to poke and prod him, he's wearing a muzzle, and it's not because he's he is a dick, but it's not because he's unsafe. It's the safety, right? And if you have a dog that's unmuzzled and they have to be poked and prodded, it puts everybody in that room at ease because they know the worst case scenario they're gonna get muzzle punched. And
especially with the breeds too, because I hate to admit it, but 9 times out of 10 vet staff are breedist. Like whenever I worked in, is that a word, breedist?
I don't know if it's a real word, but I get what you're saying.
It is now. If I was walking into a room with a shepherd, or especially Chihuahuas are known as land sharks.
Oh yeah.
I don't care what notes are on the dog. I'm gonna have a muzzle in my pocket.
Right. Well, you have to protect yourself. And that's the same thing like with the dog world, especially at our shop, because we deal with aggressive dogs. You know, one bad bite to your hand can end your training career. Yeah. You know, I mean, I've taken tons of bites in my hands, and thankfully I still have mobility and everything, but I do have dead spots from nerve damage and things like that. And, you know, I built my name in the dog world on aggressive rehabilitation. And it's funny because people come to us and they're like, well, my dog does this and does this, and, you know, he's aggressive. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, here's the program. Oh, I can't afford that. I'm like, I can't afford to lose my hand. Yeah. So, you know, there's liabilities on both sides of this coin. And if I'm going to take you on as a client, it's going to be worth it because if I get bit, I got to pay medical bills. You know, I got to pay staff to take my spot to take that dog. You know, so there's a lot involved with that kind of stuff that just people don't realize. But absolutely, you have to take it to the point where you can protect yourself. Otherwise, that might be your last day at work. You know, so especially on the vet tech side, because you guys as vet techs, I would beg to say that you probably do more work daily for the clients than the doctor does. Oh yeah, no, the doctor literally all that they do is do a physical exam. Right. And in some clinics, techs do that, like to get the vitals and just round off the appointment to the doctor. The doctor's in there for like maybe 5 minutes. Right. Maybe to administer the vaccine or the rabies or whatever. Techs do it. Techs do it. You don't have to be a registered tech to do it. You just have to have a doctor in the building. Yeah. Yep. Nope. All they do is medical notes. And in some clinics, surgeries. They have techs do the medical notes for them. Yeah. Sometimes. So. I know at Animal Talk, Doc does all the surgeries. And for us specifically, because we're clients, he'll see us personally. You know, obviously the vet techs will, you know, do the card or whatever and do the initial meet and greet and whatnot. But for the most part, we deal with Doc. But we also do a lot of business with Doc. Yeah. So he's definitely our favorite vet so far. So as a vet tech turned dog trainer who's been in the pet industry for over 7 years, Well, probably longer because you did horse stuff.
I got into horses whenever I was 14.
Yeah.
Because I was homeschooled, so I actually started.
Oh, so that's why you're so weird. No,
yeah,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, actually it is.
No, because we're going to do that with Savannah. I think we're going to homeschool Savannah.
I really want to do that with Levi.
So
I do not want him going to public school.
Yeah. We'll just create a pod.
There you go. We'll just do it in the eval room.
Right. What would be your best piece of advice for a person getting a puppy? And this is perfect for you because you just got your puppy.
Do your research.
For what, though?
On the breed.
Breed research?
Mm-hmm. I so wish it was a thing where you had to go to a certification class to be a pet owner, and based off of your results, this is the type of pets you can have. This is the type of breeds you're allowed to have of that pet, and bar none, end of story.
Right.
Because, I mean, half the time, the people that come to us with all these crazy-ass dogs is because they don't know the type of dog that they ended up getting.
Right.
Because they didn't do the research before.
Oh, that's a cute dog. Look at those eyes.
Or such a cute puppy.
Right.
Puppies grow up.
Right. They get big.
Mm-hmm.
I had a call this morning, and the people are like, yeah, we got a miniature bulldog, but he's 60 pounds. Like, that's not a miniature bulldog.
No.
Anything that's 60 pounds is not miniature. I guess maybe it was a Great Dane. Then that could potentially be a miniature.
The fact that you said miniature Great Dane means that you did not do your research on the breed.
Right. So, no, I believe, I wholeheartedly agree with that too. And it's not just the research, but it's picking the proper dog for your lifestyle.
Yes.
That's the huge part because
I have German Shepherds.
Right.
I have a military bred German Shepherd, and I have a brand new working line Czech working line Shepherd.
Right.
Like, I'm a very active person.
Right.
I'm a dog trainer. My dogs come to me with work every day.
Right.
If I don't have time to work with them on my lunch, I'll clock out and I'll stay 20 minutes after work and work them before
Right.
I go home, because whenever I go home, I don't have time to do it.
Right. And even when you're not doing it at home, you're still actively doing something with them occasionally.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. You know, so it's like, I know what I got into.
Right.
But before I was a dog trainer, I mean, I got Colts from a military breeder, but I brought them to work with me at the clinic every day.
Right.
So it was the same thing.
Right.
And before that, I didn't have a working dog because I couldn't do it.
Right.
I had a beagle.
Right.
And I did therapy.
Which could damn near be a freaking working dog sometimes.
She is not. So my dad got her for me off of Craigslist whenever I was in middle school. And the lady that he got her from, she's on death row at a pound in Crystal City. And I had 2 beagles growing up, Pete and Sam. And they both died. And my mom had surgery. So then a year later, he got me Sugar Peach. And I used her all throughout school. My friends from school used to come over, and we used to have her sit on my kitchen table, and we would put Post-it notes all over her, and she would just sit there and let us do it for like studying for anatomy. And then I actually went through therapy training with her when my grandpa got really sick. And I did her license through Support Dogs. It's called Duo Dogs now. Yep. And I used to take her all over the place to do therapy work. And I used to take her to, what's it called? Boys and Girls Club all the time because my sister used to work there.
Nice.
So I used to take her and my horse up there a lot.
Yeah. So
beagles are good for something.
They're just not my cup of tea. I've seen some come to the shop that were like legit. They should have been like hunting dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Like they've got the drive for it.
Oh,
they
yeah.
could 100% go back to their roots of why they were beagles.
There's some good hunting lines out there, but they're just so overbred now. It's
well,
ridiculous.
and that's Shepherds are that way. You know, Rotties are that way. Everything. The Malinois will be that way in the next 5 to 10 years. You know, unfortunately, that's part of the problem with America is that we dumb down and wash out breeds. And part of it's AKC. 100%. You know, when you're breeding for a visual standard versus temperament and workability, you destroy the animal. And then us humans, we just destroy everything anyway. So I have a lot of disdain for humans, apparently.
You really do. Especially coming from a Marine, you worked to save people, and now you're just like, oh,
It was the country, not the people.
People are in the country.
True. But no, I get on these conversations with people all the time, especially like on social media, which I've done really good not like having those conversations across on social media because I never go anywhere. But like the big thing I see here in America specifically compared to like Europe and other countries that have dogs, we're a throwaway society with everything. If it breaks, we throw it away. If your relationship's going bad, we throw it away. If your car is broken down, we go buy a new one. If your dog got too big, you go put it to the pound and you go get a puppy. You know, if your dog's this, then you get rid of it and you get another dog, right? That's just the way we've been programmed because everything is disposable. In Europe, they don't have the overwhelming population of dogs like we do here, with shelters overflowing with dogs, being overbred, all that kind of stuff. Part of it is dogs in Europe are part of the culture. Like when you're over there and you go to like a restaurant, it's common to have people next to you at a table and their dogs underneath their feet. Because everything they do, they incorporate their dog.
Their dog is actually part of their family and not
correct.
a pet.
They also don't have 5, 6, 7 dogs per family. They typically have one, and they get it as a puppy. And there's usually the club that they're part of, and then they work with that dog through the club and through the dog's life, and that dog's with them until the dog dies, and then they start back over again. Here, we don't have things like that.
Not at all.
Right? I mean, yes, we have our protection clubs and our sport clubs, but unless you have a dog that is doing those things, they're not going to accept you, right? Because you're not doing the sport stuff. So I feel like that's a big thing that we have here in the States. The other part over there is that they'll actually cull puppy litters, right? So you have a litter of puppies, and let's say there's deformities, temperament stuff, they will off that entire litter and then never breed those dogs again because those dogs do no justice to the breed. Here, if you talk about culling puppies, you're a horrible individual that mass murders dogs, and you get everybody coming after you. So, but then they wonder why our rescues are overflowing. I don't know. Just my thoughts and my opinions and things I've put together over the years. So.
No, I definitely agree with you. It's hard because I even my heart sinks a little bit just thinking about that. But I mean, it's true.
Right.
Like how can you better a breed when you're just breeding bad genetics?
Right.
And genetics goes for mental health as well as physical.
100%.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Right. And just because the dog looks pretty doesn't mean that dog's going to be a good dog.
Exactly, yeah.
Look at a husky. There's gorgeous dogs, bright blue eyes.
I could never
and
own a husky.
They just, people get them and they live in an apartment, and huskies were meant to run
nonstop
for hours, and you expect this thing to live happily in your home and not destroy it and bark and howl and everything else. So, which is just one example. Beagles are the same way. Beagles are meant to go hunt things.
Literally for days at a time.
Right.
That's why they eat so much all the time. They eat so quickly because they eat days worth of food at once.
Right. And then you stuff them in a house or an apartment, and you wonder why they howl and bay all day long.
And get fat.
Because they're bored. So that goes back to your research, and I like to call it genetic fulfillment, because if you get a shepherd, right, they want to use their nose, they want to use their mouth. If you're doing a greyhound, they want to run. Great Danes, they like to run too. They like to put things in their mouth. Malinois love things in their mouth, right? So you have to find a way to genetically fulfill those desires. Otherwise, you're outside of the comfort zone of that dog, and then now we're never going to fulfill the dog's needs. And then we start having behavioral issues.
It's the same way with people.
100%.
You live and breathe dogs. That's what you were made to do.
Right.
How would you act, and what would you become if the world just took every single dog away from you?
I go back to the gun industry. And for me, it's not even don't get me wrong, I love dogs. It's definitely my passion. I think the bigger side for me is teaching.
Yeah.
I truly enjoy teaching. Whether it's, you guys, or whether it's Joe Schmo, and it doesn't really, as long as it's something I'm competent in, which at this point in my life, the 2 things I'm super confident in, well, 3, I guess, are dogs, firearms instruction, and business. Those are the 3 things that I feel like I'm pretty competent in and that I can really educate people on. Dogs definitely being the first, because that's what I've been doing the longest. So, but besides the joy that I get out of getting hands on a leash with a dog is the actual teaching side of it. Mm-hmm. I really do enjoy that.
Yeah, I do too, for sure.
So, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it.
And I feel like because I share that same passion about teaching people, you know, I've taught several years. You know, I used to take kids to horse shows even.
Yeah.
I think that's why another reason why I like the go home lessons so much.
Yeah. And that would make total sense because that's where all the teaching comes together, unless you're doing lessons. But I feel like the way that we have our program structured, you still get all the information that you would in a go home during a lessons program spread out over, 5 weeks. But I feel like that go home lesson just is different.
It's deeper.
Right.
Because they're away from their pet.
Right.
So because they've had time away from their dog, they're actually focused on you. They're wanting to listen to you and actually completely 100% soaking in every single thing that you're saying. Versus if you're just doing, weekly lessons, they're like, yeah, I tried this. It didn't work.
Right.
Okay, so try this instead. Okay, see you next week.
Right. Or, I couldn't make it. I couldn't get any training done this week. It's like you had 6 days of...
You couldn't find 15 minutes.
A day or even an hour through that entire time to put your dog's leash in your hand and try some of this stuff. All right, well, guess what? We're going to do last week's lesson again, right? Now you're going to lose a lesson. And I do feel the board and train for us specifically, or the stay and train, whatever you want to call it, when those clients come on, they are much more dedicated to their dog.
They are. They're much more invested.
Yeah. Which part of it's the price, but, and that's why we give the lifetime support with that program, is because if they're going to be that dedicated, I want us to be that dedicated. Exactly. I want them to be successful. Yep. And I feel like the staff that we have, the trainers that we have, they're on the same page with that it really, after the training's done, like, we really don't care. We want you to be successful. So we don't really care what it takes to get to that point, as long as it's ethical, safe, and all that kind of stuff. But if it means that we have to go out to your house once a week for a month, so be it, right?
Oh, I love going to in-home lessons. I'm like, hi, man, how you doing? I missed you.
Right.
And I find myself all the time, like, asking Danielle, hey, how's Jax doing? Or like, hey, Tommy, how's so-and-so doing? I don't know, we haven't heard. So I'm like, well, I guess they're doing good then.
Sometimes, sometimes no news is good news, especially some of those harder dogs where it's just like, the first lesson goes great, they go home, and then you don't hear from them, and you're like, And those are the ones I check in on. Like, I'm like, all right, it's been 3 weeks. Normally we've heard something by this point.
Yeah.
Hey, just wanted to reach out and see how things are going. And a lot of times, especially now that you guys are getting really good at training, we're not getting a lot of those follow-ups anymore.
I have noticed that.
So, and that just comes with experience and time and all that kind of stuff. And then, like I was explaining to Cam the other day, because she did her first complete go-home lesson. I was like, I highly recommend and I tell you guys this all the time, record everything you do so that you can go back and watch it. Not just your training sessions, but record your go-homes. So then you can see what you're doing and hear what you're saying. And then you can also hear the questions that clients are asking you. And then you can put those questions into your go-home. So then you avoid those questions anyway. You're already going to answer them anyway, right? So then you might hear new questions, or you might not just have a surface question. You might get deeper into it, like with the client, than just surface needs, right? So I was telling her that kind of stuff, and it was just funny because she was like, I never thought about doing half the stuff you say. I'm like, well.
She cracks me up.
It was so cute. Oh my God. So last week, I think it was last week, when it was her and Charlie doing Leo's go home lesson, and everything started clicking with Mom and Leo, and Cam started crying because she was so happy. Dude, that hit me so hard. I was like, and I walked up to her, I was like, this right here, this is what it's all about. And I was like, all the bullshit, all the crap, like this moment and what you're seeing and feeling, that is what this is all about.
100%.
So, but yeah. So besides research, did you ever use a dog trainer prior to becoming a dog trainer for any of your dogs? Well, you went to Duo Dogs.
Yeah, so I did that. Which honestly, all that was...
Big group session teaching you how to do stuff.
Basically, like you had to do temperament and evaluation of the dog first, which sugar is sugar. So, of course, you just flew through that. You had to do a basic obedience class prior to that, which I had already done that through PetSmart when I was like 10.
Okay.
So I had that. So I just had to provide the certificate for that. And then it was broken into two classes. So the first 6 weeks was just advanced obedience, pretty much getting everybody in the group onto the same page obedience-wise. Couple weeks break. Second session was another 6 weeks of the actual therapy work, just getting dogs accustomed to like being desensitized to like walking with like IV poles, wheelchairs.
Right.
Big dogs, you have to train them to like how to position on like beds or how to sit next to a chair. Sugar's a smaller dog, so she had to sit on the bed or sit on the chair.
Right.
And teach her not to face me and listen to me, but actually face the patient.
Right.
And she got licensed to work with kids as well. So that was just additional training to basically, she went to libraries and stuff and just sat there for
kids
like reading
could read stories to them and stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously you have a ton of experience in the dog world, animal world. What, besides doing research, if someone had a behavioral issue or just wanted a better relationship with their dog and they were going to go look for a dog trainer, what are key things in your mind they should be looking for? And you can't just say, come to us, because that's not fair.
Making sure I don't know why that's a hard question. I guess I would say.
So if you were going to go look for a dog trainer, right, before you came on with us and you became a dog trainer, if let's say you got your puppy and you were going to go do protection training or whatever you were going to do with him or her, sorry, what would be things that you have now that you would look for as far as someone that you would trust, be competent enough, get the results?
I would say not be a cookie cutter.
Explain.
So a lot of training for like Weston.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I've done obedience class agility training at Weston. I forgot about that.
Which, don't get me wrong, so we're not going to bash on Weston, right?
Yeah. No,
great training facility.
I really liked doing the sport training there with my Dalmatian that I had from tech school.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. They did great with that. But like big facilities like that, or like corporate facilities,
franchises,
the obedience classes that they have, like for puppies especially, it's all cookie cutter.
Right.
Because I did that with Colt.
Yeah.
I did their puppy class.
It's all the same thing per dog.
This is the training program, and it's very hard whenever like you have a puppy that doesn't fit into that program, that isn't working for that dog. It's very hard to get the results and get ideas from the trainer within that
because they
puppy
don't know.
class, because they like this is it.
Right.
If your dog isn't getting the results within this, then you need to do something else with your dog.
Which is understandable. Like, Kayla and I talked about all these different things when we were building the business plan and all that kind of stuff. Like, how is the training program going to go and da-da-da-da-da. And I fought tooth and nail to not create cookie cutter programs because every dog doesn't fit inside the box. And being a dog trainer, in my mind, you should be able to think outside the box to still get the same results. Yeah. Right? So the other side of that I feel with big box, I call those companies big box dog training companies, whether they're franchises or multiple locations or just a really big, 30 dog trainers and they're taking on hundreds, if not thousands of dogs a month. Those are big box. They have to do that to keep track of stuff, so for them, it's all about numbers and because it's big business. So if you're doing the same program, they can track that trainer to make sure that they're hitting all their wickets and all that kind of stuff. So I understand it from a business perspective of why they do that. But from a training side, it really, really limits what your results as an individual with your dog are going to get. But it really limits a dog trainer on how they can do things. Yeah. Like there's companies out there that are big franchises that don't allow the trainers to use treats. and they have to go with e-collars from day one, and they're blasting the dog and like all this kind of stuff, right? Or there's training companies out there that don't allow any kind of corrective equipment. All it is rainbows and sunshine and daydreams and treats and praise, and then they get this aggressive dog and they wonder why they get eaten. So that's why that happens. But yeah, doing your research, asking, you know, training theory and, you know, methods. And ultimately for me, is that training going to fit your lifestyle?
Right.
You know?
And I think another thing too, that I would always suggest is I love doing the evals, because you get to show the clients who we are.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big thing for dog owners to pay attention to, is getting to like actually being able to see who the trainer is as a person and not just their customer service face.
Right.
Because the actual person behind that is who your dog is going to be interacting with.
Right.
So like you said, like, is this trainer the actual like personality that is going to fit my dog and the type of training that I want with my dog?
Yeah. And that's huge, I think, too. You know, I feel like a lot of people, not just trainers, but people in general, they become chameleons. Whoever they're around,
they just become.
They shift and they shift and they shift to match that person, right? I feel like everyone with us right now, we're just the blunt assholes that we're just who we are. And I mean, we're not assholes, but it can come off that way because we're very passionate about what we do, and we're not going to lie to you or sugarcoat something and be around the bush to make you believe something that's not true. Whereas, and I've heard these stories from clients a ton where they go, oh yeah, I went to this trainer, they promised me the world, and nothing changed. My dog knows how to sit. It's like, okay, that sucks. I mean, to be promised all that stuff that, oh, we can fix your dog, and then all your dog knows is a sit afterwards, like, that's horrible, you know? So, all right, so let's close out because we're about to run over. What final piece of advice, word, whatever would you have for a potential client, or even our clients that are already you know, that are in our program or part of the family or whatever? Any parting words for them?
I would say that every day is a great day if you got to spend time with your dog.
Nice.
And always, you know that you're a good pet owner and that your dog has a good life if you have a happy dog.
Nice. I like that. All right, cool. Well, guys, check in next time. We'll see you soon.